It shouldn't come as a surprise that Swen Vincke has become an industry icon. More than a year after Baldur's Gate 3 released, the man has become a spokesperson for smaller studios, for indie devs, and for us gamers. And recently he sat down with Gamespot in an hour-long interview where he actually opened up on the future of Larian and his own philosophies regarding game development and what's wrong with the industry. But here's the TLDR version. So first off, Swen talked a lot about automation and how Larian's leveraging AI and generative tools in game development. But before you start panicking, no, Swen isn't about to replace actual devs with AI and turn their next game into ChatGPT Enhanced Edition. Instead, he made it crystal clear. Automation means devs won't lose their jobs. Quite the opposite. What Larian is doing is using these tools to handle the grunt work, the stuff that nobody wants to do anyway, like manually cleaning motion capture data or endlessly retargeting animations from one character model to another. Swen specifically mentioned animation as an incredibly time-consuming process that often bogs down artists. Animators spend a ton of time on stuff they really don't want to work on. Automation takes this away so they can focus on the creative stuff. The goal here, according to Swen, isn't about cutting costs. Automation won't necessarily lower our costs, but it will increase our ability. Translation? Don't expect future Larian games to drop sooner, but you can expect them to be bigger, better, and deeper instead. The next games might still take years just like Baldur's Gate 3, but the end product will probably feel even more massive, which is probably the best thing we could ask for. But hold your horses if you're worried about AI diluting creativity, because Swen completely gets the concern. He explicitly said that they're not using generative AI to replace actual game art or story content. You're never going to see anything generated in the game itself, that's still being made by hand. So he's well aware of the fear around AI-generated art feeling soulless or generic, so for Larian, it's purely about enhancing workflow, not replacing human artistry. Another cool thing he mentioned was how much creative freedom Larian gives its developers. He used the Bard class as an example. We basically told the team, here's the Bard class, go have fun, and what we got back was way more than we ever expected. This feature group method lets devs go wild within reason, creating unexpected successes. Then Swen called out something that's been seriously bugging him, other executives proudly claiming they'll use AI to replace developers. I've heard people say that they're excited they can replace entire teams with AI, and I think that's completely the wrong approach. And really, this isn't just talk either. Swen has repeatedly criticized big publishers for hiring massive teams only to lay them off months later because they scaled irresponsibly. In his eyes, keeping institutional knowledge and maintaining stable teams is key to making consistently good games. He also slammed the short-sighted mentality that seems to have taken over parts of the industry. When Gamespot asked him if single-player games were dead, Swen didn't hold back. I've heard high-profile people say single-players don't have a future. It's nonsense. He does acknowledge that microtransactions rake in more cash short-term, but argues single-player games are still very profitable. Just look at games like Elden Ring or Dark Souls. And his message to big publishers? Well, if you keep copying trends without innovating, players eventually tune out. As an example, he brought up a pretty hilarious executive misfire, the My Little Pony craze around 2009. I don't know if you guys remember that, probably you do. Publishers saw how well it was doing and thought, hey, let's do that, and yeah, that didn't exactly work out. He also shared his frustration with the industry's obsession with numbers-first design. Put the game first and your spreadsheet will follow. That truth hasn't permeated enough and it's frustrating. So if you're making games primarily to hit quarterly targets instead of genuinely exciting players, Swen believes your project is doomed from the start. Then there was a great little discussion on IP rights and modding. Swen recently stepped in to defend a Stardew Valley mod based on Baldur's Gate 3 characters, and he shared his reasoning. Fan mods highlighting your characters and other genres is a unique form of word of mouth. You should applaud it, not crack down. He essentially thinks copyright enforcement should mainly come into play if there's commercial exploitation. But free mods? Let people have their fun. It's good for both communities. He was also asked why Larian isn't jumping into the DLC cash cow business after BG3's huge success, and Sven's answer was again pretty blunt. It's boring, we tried working on DLC but quickly realized there was no passion there. He also emphasized that it's about developer happiness. Happy developers lead to happy players, and that's our philosophy. Profit follows good content. And on Larian's future, Swen was pretty tight-lipped, but he did reveal some hints. Larian is now structured to work on 2 major RPGs simultaneously, which I've talked about before, using separate teams. He also announced that they're building a dedicated storytelling group focused purely on creating future narratives and worlds ahead of full-scale development, which is pretty huge. We just opened positions for a large storytelling team. They'll craft future stories to help control our development waterfall. And the goal is to keep creativity and production running smoothly without burnout. He joked that it's not exactly easy. It's very organic, it's not something you just put in an Excel file. Now finally, Swen wrapped up with Larian's overarching vision for the next 5 years. We have an ambitious project coming up. Hopefully 5 years from now I can tell you we cracked the formula. It'll probably still be miserable, but at least we'll be doing what we love. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Swen Vincke just being Swen Vincke, as always. Now, as I mentioned previously, remember to go check out the full interview because it's very insightful, and Swen does give some small teases towards what they're working on, but it's not huge. But as always, if you want updates on Larian's future games, then don't forget to subscribe. And as always, have a great day. Mr. Alton signing off.